The Second Epistle to the Corinthians, Chapter 9, Lesson 10. In studying this chapter, 1. To see how Paul had used the Corinthians' zeal to motivate the Macedonians in their giving, whose sacrificial giving had been used in Chapter 8 to motivate the Corinthians. 2. To appreciate what kind of giving is pleasing to God. 3. To see the relation between sowing and reaping, and what is the proper use of what we have reaped. 4. To observe what a collection like this was designed to produce. As he continues his discussion about the collection for the needy saints, Paul confesses that his writing may be superfluous. That is because he knows their willingness, of which he boasted to the Macedonians, who in turn were stirred up by the zeal of the Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 9, 1-3. It is indeed unnecessary for me to write to you concerning the service to the saints, for I know your readiness, of which I boast on your behalf to them of Macedonia, that Achaia has been prepared for a year past. Your zeal has stirred up very many of them, but I have sent the brothers that our boasting on your behalf may not be in vain in this respect, that just as I said, you may be prepared. Yet Paul felt it necessary to send the messengers to ensure that the Corinthians had their gift ready, and that it was one of true generosity and not out of a grudging obligation. To find them unprepared would be embarrassing to both Paul and the Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 9, 4-5. So that I won't by any means, if there come with me any of Macedonia and find you unprepared, we, to say nothing of you, should be disappointed in this confident boasting. I thought it necessary, therefore, to entreat the brothers that they would go before to you and arrange ahead of time the generous gift that you promised before, that the same might be ready as a matter of generosity and not of greediness. That they might give liberally, Paul reminds them of the principle of sowing and reaping, and that God loves a cheerful giver. He also writes of God's ability to give them an abundance for every good work, and prays that God will multiply the seed they have sown, so they will be enriched in all things for even more liberality on their part. 2 Corinthians 9, 6-8. Remember this, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. He who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Let each man give according as he has determined in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver, and God is able to make all grace abound to you, that you, always having all sufficiency in everything, may abound to every good work. 2 Corinthians 9, 9-11. As it is written, he has scattered abroad, he has given to the poor, his righteousness remains forever. Now may he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food supply and multiply your seed for sowing, and increase the fruits of your righteousness, you being enriched in everything to all liberality, which works through us thanksgiving to God. He concludes this section by pointing out the effect this collection will have. It not only supplies the needs of the saints, it will abound in thanksgiving and praise to God, and produce prayers and longing in the hearts of the recipients for their benefactors. This prompts Paul to give thanks to God, for it is he who makes these things possible. 2 Corinthians 9, 12-13. For this service of giving that you perform not only makes up for lack among the saints, but abounds also through many givings of thanks to God, seeing that through the proof given by this service they glorify God for the obedience of your confession to the gospel of Christ, and for the liberality of your contribution to them and to all. 2 Corinthians 9, 14-15. While they themselves also, with supplication on your behalf, yearn for you by reason of the exceeding grace of God in you. Now thanks be to God for his unspeakable gift. The Second Epistle to the Corinthians, Chapter 9, Lesson 10, the end.